You want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. A couple of days ago, a State Department spokesperson said that the war with ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, now known as the Islamic State, is not a war of ideas. Why? Because ISIS, he said, had no ideas. That statement is as delusional and false as the statement that our Benghazi embassy was destroyed and several of our people were killed because of a riot over a film that Muslims found offensive. So I've written a little something for you about this issue. Here we go. The Iranians say that the CIA created ISIS. Many Americans agree. Now, what's right and what's wrong about this paranoid fantasy? It assumes that only we have agency, that only we have will, that only we have the power to turn dreams into realities. Once upon a time, there was another civilization that believed only its people and a few superpower rivals were capable of achievement. It was the civilization of the Byzantines. And their culturocentrism, their civilizational solipsism, their civilizational narcissism proved fatal. Who were the Byzantines? And what's the meaning of their experience for you and me? The Roman Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity in 324 AD. 18 years later, he moved the capital of the empire from Rome to the old Greek colony of Byzantium. Constantine explained that he was acting on direct orders from his new god, Jesus, who presumably preferred to leave Rome, the city of pagan deities and Christian persecutions, behind. At that moment, Byzantium, in what is today Turkey, became the administrative hub of Europe and a great deal more. By 600 AD, Byzantium was the mistress of a territory that included the lands of modern Egypt, Palestine, Syria, Greece, Yugoslavia, and parts of Libya, Algeria, and even Spain. Byzantium was rich beyond measure. It was said that the streets were paved with gold. And Byzantium had signed a highly favorable peace treaty with her biggest superpower rival, Persia. But things were not as cheerful as at first they seemed. The Byzantines had a nasty habit, blaming everything in sight on each other, and fighting to the death over every trivial detail on which they disagreed. The most famous of these conflicts were the battles between the Greens and the Blues, the conservatives and liberals of the day. The two groups, the Greens and the Blues, were followers of different teams in the sporting matches at the local hippodrome, but they were also rivals for the soul of the city. One was led by aristocratic landowners, the other by merchants and industrialists. One supported Orthodox religion, the other was drawn to unconventional spiritual notions. Think New Age spirituality and a bit of Buddhism. The Greens and Blues killed each other over petty issues like which words truly belonged in a prayer. They had pitched battles in the streets over economic policy, toppling statues and burning down public buildings as they went. They murdered each other during riots at sporting events, and they were not content with one or two accidental homicides during a heated melee. On one occasion, the Greens hid stones and daggers in baskets of fruit, showed up at a solemn festival, and massacred 3,000 of their blue opponents. Eventually, the Greens and the Blues led a revolution in which they indulged their love for murdering neighbors to the nth degree. They killed sons of the emperor before his eyes, then they slew him as well. The revolutionary factions installed their own imperial candidate, focused on the throne. This revolutionary reformer indulged in a political bloodbath of devastating proportions. Determined to return the state to moral and religious purity, he rubbed out anyone whose views were the least bit unconventional. With the Persian superpower out of the way, the Byzantine citizens thought that only their internal opponents mattered. They forgot that their real enemies might exist somewhere outside the comfortable borders of their own land. While the Byzantines attacked each other in the streets over fine points of theology, a horde of Bedouins and backwater merchants rode out of the unfamiliar deserts to the southeast, roused to a frenzy by a new religion that made battle a holy deed. These armies of Islam snatched nearly everything the bickering Byzantines had. The Mohammedans took Syria, Palestine, Armenia, Mesopotamia, and Egypt in a mere 12 years. Then they gradually pried North Africa, Spain, Greece, Yugoslavia, and all the rest from Byzantine hands. In 1453, even Byzantium itself would fall, to become the new capital of an Islamic empire. The city's name, Constantinople, would disappear from the map, replaced by the Turkish name, Istanbul. Like the citizens of Constantine's capital, we would rather fight each other than acknowledge a simple reality, that there are people in the outside world who relish the opportunity to destroy us. And those people have efficacy. They have agency. They have will, and they have discipline. They are capable of changing realities. Remember, there are entire worldviews different from yours and mine. Entirely different ways of weighing the pros and cons of reality. And those worldviews can be powerful social mobilizers, powerful agents of change. They can give people a sense of belonging to something bigger than themselves, a sense of working for a higher purpose, a sense of passionate meaning. How different are their worldviews? How different are their worldviews? Can't pronounce the word different today. How different are their worldviews, their internal realities from yours and mine? Jeremy Bentham in the 1820s said we all operate according to a hedonic calculus. We calculate what an action will deliver in pleasure and pain. ISIS members have a pleasure and pain that we fail to measure. A resource that exists only in the imagination. ISIS members live in a brief and difficult world on earth, just like you and me. Then they have an eternal life in heaven or hell. Heaven and hell add infinity to Jeremy Bentham's equations, and they change the calculations dramatically. But don't think that anticipating infinite pleasure or infinite pain in the afterlife makes the members of ISIS incompetent savages. We, too, have our imaginary resources. Resources that we imagine are vastly overtaxed and about to run out. Take global warming. There's been no warming, the latest studies show, in the last 14 years. These are not studies from climate change deniers. These are studies from climatologists. The temperature has been radically different from what the global warming models predict. So where is the global warming? We're told it's hidden in the oceans, in the Pacific, to be specific. But have you ever seen global warming? A friend of mine claims he has. He's Jeff Morey, and he runs the Independent Garden Center, a national coalition of gardening stores. He says that plants that you could once only sell to gardeners in the South have been slowly moving north. Why? Because the north is warming. But have you personally seen global warming? Have you witnessed it hiding in the ocean? Have you touched it, tasted it, or have you seen greenhouse gases? No. Yet you may be one of those who is urging, demanding, and agonizing over imminent catastrophe. You may be one of those marching to get the world to spend $1 trillion, the equivalent of the gross domestic product of Australia or Saudi Arabia, to prevent disaster. A disaster that is as much in your imagination as heaven and hell are in the imagination of a jihadist who belongs to ISIS. World views change the way we treat each other. A woman is not an equal to a man in ISIS society. She is a walking womb. She is a commodity. She is a sexual dispenser. She can be turned into a sex slave, raped, and sold, all with the blessings of Muhammad, the one true prophet, the only man who ever got the message of God right, according to Islam. Muhammad said over and over again that using a woman as a walking womb, capable of satisfying sexual appetites of men, was not just acceptable, it was virtuous and holy. In fact, Muhammad said, "Get thee a young girl, so that thee might play with her." And Muhammad's view had a demographic benefit. It was a good way to spread Islam. Every child of a Muslim father, according to Islam, even a child conceived by rape, is a Muslim. So every rape stands a chance of adding a new soldier to the armies of Islam. One Islamic expert, Ali Mazrui, a devoted Muslim, calls this procreational jihad, procreational competition. And it's a vital part, says Mazrui, of Islam. It's been a vital part of Islam for 1,400 years, he says. Is it really true that jihadist extremists, be they Saudis, Qataris, Syrians, Iraqis, Bosnians, English rappers, or Americans from Arizona or San Diego, are helpless to do anything without the support of the CIA? Is it really true that only Westerners can possibly accomplish things? Is it true that all other peoples are helpless pygmies? That all others are a subspecies, a sub-race? I leave that answer up to you. This is Howard the Among Us, speaking to you from the future. It is your job and my job to make, or want to know why, ask how. And now for that infamously elusive, sneaky, slimy, sleazy little off button, which is as hard to find as a clitoris. I think I found it.